I had a statement about Africa and Africans the other day that just floored me. It floored me because of the truth in it. Yeah, this person said, people don't come to the poorest continent in the world to make money. Think about it. Is Africa poor or rich? And if it is true we are rich, then what is the problem? There are many problems. But in my view, the biggest problem is reflected in the current crisis we have in the nation called Kenya, the political crisis. We all know, at least most of us know, that the Mzungus used the tactic of divide and rule to conquer us. Yeah, ages ago, our descendants. Now, of course, the first thing that happens when you use me against another fellow African or against another Kenyan, the first thing that happens is that the truth is off the table. The real will of the people is off the table. The wishes of the vast majority of Kenyans and Africans is off the table, irrelevant. Nobody should speak about it. Elections are over. Forget it. That's what it is. That is the reality. And so this should be a reminder of those of us in political space, those of us who have decided to go into politics to make some quick money, to enrich ourselves personally and our families and our wives and our children at the expense of the masses. This should be a reminder that one, we're not doing something that will stand the test of time, and two, history is going to judge us, and those children we love and our great-great-grandchildren very harshly because of the name we carry and the short-term goals that we are very determined to achieve at the cost of an entire nation. That's really what it is. Now I know I'm playing guitar to a goat. Nobody's going to listen to that. But sample the following examples from history. And let us start with the scramble for Africa. When Mzungus decided to rush to Africa. Why did they suddenly decide to rush to Africa? Our history books give us several unconvincing reasons. In my opinion, the real reason was triggered by something that happened in the 14th century, involving a man who is considered to be the richest African and the richest human being who has ever lived. Yeah, apart from King Solomon, of course. The leader of a country called Mali in Africa, a very famous man called Mansa Musa in the 14th century, decided to take a trip to Mecca. And when he took this trip to Mecca, news started spreading around that watu wanatoka Africa ni matajiri, because the guy carried so much gold and he was generous. He was distributing gold just like that, like it's not important to him. And some people started paying attention. And some Zungus started doing some digging around. And the rest is history. There was a man called Patrice Lumumba, very popular with the people, because he had the masses in his heart. He wanted a better Congo. Yeah. And indeed he was elected overwhelmingly as the first prime minister of the country called Congo. And the Mzungus looked and they saw what was happening and they said, this can't work. This can't work for us. Not the Africans. This can't work for us Mzungus. And so what happened? They used Lumumba's friend, his brother, somebody who was close to Lumumba, a man called Mobutu Sese Seko, to get rid of the Patrice Lumumba validly, legally elected government. And the rest is history. Let's go to a country called Burkina Faso and a real legend of the continent, Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara, yes, he took over in a military coup, but between 1983 and 1987, the 4 very short years he ruled Burkina Faso, the country changed. It became more self-sufficient. Many things changed. And indeed, if Sankara had continued just for another 10 years, even today we'd be talking a different story about the continent of Africa. But again, the Mzungu said, no, this can't be allowed. And they used his very close buddy in the military, a man called Blaise Compaoré, to initiate a coup against his best friend. And Thomas Sankara was killed in October 1987. End of story. Back to Kenya. It is my view that some Kenyans have been used, and many of them are not even aware that they're being used, against a gallant Kenyan called Raila Amolo Odinga. Now, Bwana Odinga has got a track record of his own. You don't need me to convince you about this man. Just go and do a brief research about his past, what he has done for the country called Kenya, the times he has opted to save Kenyan lives rather than go ahead and grab power at the cost of more lives being lost. But now he's being called hungry for power. Okay? It is very clear that the Mzungu fears and does not want people like Raila Odinga. Amtaki. Never ever. But the saddest thing of all is that we, who are to benefit from having genuine leaders like Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, Raila Odinga, we the ones who are to benefit are being used by those who do not want such leaders in Africa for obvious reasons. Now I can hear somebody saying, no, Chris, that's my own opinion. Nobody has forced me into that opinion. No Mzungu came to see me to tell me about Raila Mganga. Nobody. I came up with that view and opinion on my very own. Really? You know, we go to school not to get a job. We go to school to enhance our level of thinking and analyzing situations. Now it is very sad, but it is true, that our education system in recent years has been skewed to produce as many of us who cannot do their own thinking. To produce as many of us as possible who hate to think for themselves. Very sad. That is why I keep on saying, Wakenya tumesoma mpaka tukakuwa wajinga wa mwisho. You see, you just need to do a very brief search on Google. Do very little research, which will not take you more than 5 minutes, to realize how powerful the propaganda tool can be. And how by simply playing with people's emotions, you can get them to think how you want them to think. And I'm not naive, because this thing is so deep in our psyche. Only God Almighty can help us. I'll give you a quick example. Our young girls today, one of the ways they believe they can make money is by getting a mzungu. So what do? They go and visit a witch doctor, and they take their chupi to a witch doctor, and some dawa is sprinkled on it. And by the way, witchcraft is in the Bible. It existed during the Bible times. Yeah. So this is not a mambo jumbo. Yeah. And then they trap a poor mzungu and they clean him out. Yeah. Or they live with that mzungu and benefit financially. Okay, we all know that. Indeed, 2 decades ago, I had a very hard time convincing an intelligent Kenyan woman that when you visit Europe, when you visit the US, poor people, poor mzungus exist there. They could not wrap their minds around a mzungu who is poor, ambaye hana kitu. They couldn't. Now, that is what you call brainwashing. Okay? When somebody cannot be able to think in a certain direction, somebody who is intelligent, they've gone to school, even to a very high level, maybe they have a degree or 2, they still cannot wrap their minds around a mzungu who is poor. A mzungu poor? No, can't happen. Folks, we're in big trouble. Very big trouble. For as long as others use us to go against our own, as long as others continue to use us, play with our emotions, so that we oppose that which is of benefit to ourselves and our children and our great-grandchildren, as long as that situation continues, that environment, we Africans are finished. We Kenyans, kwisha maneno. Years ago, on the Kumekucha brand, I brought up the idea that our elections, since independence, have always been influenced by outside factors. That outside factors in the end up being much more important than the factors within the country, than the will of the people called Kenya. And people rubbished what I was saying. In 2017, I said the same very early on. Now, of course, what happened in 2017, as the year progressed, and after the elections, there were a lot of exposés that proved that what I had said was 100% correct. Okay? But still, even today, there are very few Kenyans who actually believe that these things happen. And even in the latest developments we have unfolding, which don't make sense, these bipartisan negotiations by parliamentarians, this deal that was made on Sunday, that does not make sense to anybody who is a careful observer. Even that one is the same old affecting us. Oh God Almighty, help Kenya. Oh God Almighty, help Africa. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha. Now, these appointments are not only significant, but they're also very relevant to the mass action. How so? I can hear you ask. It is because these are going to be key Ruto point women and point men in dealing with whatever Azimio and Raila Odinga can throw at the government during this period of mass action. And it is even more interesting when you consider that Boynet has been brought in to help the administration to use force to deal with the mass action. He has a lot of experience in that. I refer you back to the 2017 elections and what followed, especially after the Supreme Court ruling and the boycott of Raila Odinga for the presidential rerun. So this tells us very clearly what the strategy of the government will be in dealing with Raila and company.
In my view, Patrick Shaw's great undoing was to get involved in politics. Multiple eyewitnesses reported that one of the cars that had been following JM Karaoke for months before he was actually killed was actually Patrick Shaw, meaning he was involved in the dirty work of the political police or the special branch at that time. And there are many other instances, like many times he got to the scene of crime while the criminals were still there. And of course a shootout would ensue, and always Patrick Shaw came out on top. And as his reputation grew, especially his reputation, this man was not a human being. He was some sort of spirit who could sense what criminals were planning. Well, there's a logical, non-spiritual explanation. When he arrived in Kenya and joined the police reserve, this was a very intelligent man. Now, at the time Patrick Shaw joined the police, the most valued police officers were intelligence officers. And some of the intelligence officers sent to Kenya at the time during the fight against Mau Mau were some of the best in the world. Patrick Shaw learned from them. As a result, Patrick Shaw had a very intricate and very wide intelligence network. He even had his own undercover informers within these criminal gangs. Indeed, his crime intelligence network was even much better. It could not even be compared to the police one.